Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. In the bright lights of Manhattan, Nathan and Olivia's marriage looks like a magnificent tower in the sky. The surface is shiny, but the reality is shaky. Nathan is a talented architectural designer. His work shines on the skyline of the city that never sleeps. And Olivia runs a high-end luxury store. Her elegant taste and savvy business acumen made the store highly sought after in the affluent Upper East Side circles. However, underneath this seemingly perfect surface lurks a disturbing fact. Olivia is becoming increasingly unhappy with her husband. She thinks Nathan is too mild-mannered and lacks ambition, although they were already quite well off. But Olivia longed for more, a higher social status, a more luxurious lifestyle, and a partner who can fulfill her endless desires. It's then that real estate mogul Ethan Graham appears in Olivia's life. Ethan not only has the ambition and drive that Nathan doesn't. There's also the wealth and status that made Olivia's heart skip a beat. The two men soon fell into a dangerous affair, and the two of them were forced into a dangerous relationship. Secret rendezvous in the corners of the city, plotting their future. Meanwhile, Nathan's father Jack, a retired antique restorer, is battling Parkinson's disease. His live-in nanny, Isabella, takes good care of the stubborn old man. Although Jack was often grumpy because of his condition, Isabella was always patient and sympathetic. One day, Olivia overhears Jack talking on the phone about a valuable piece of ancient Chinese porcelain in his collection. The news was like a spark that ignited the greed within Olivia. She began to calculate that when Jack died, she can then convince Nathan to sell the prized possession and then take the opportunity to file for divorce and get half of the property. With this huge amount of money, she can live the luxurious life she's dreamed of with Ethan. Olivia tells Ethan about the plan. The two are excited about the bright future ahead of them. They celebrated in a suite at a fancy hotel, and they had a great time, not realizing that Isabella's nephew Leo happens to work at the hotel. Leo overhears their conversation and, shocked, he quietly recorded the conversation on his cell phone. Leo tells his aunt Isabella about this amazing discovery. Isabella, although angry and disappointed with Olivia's behavior, but she was more worried about the damage the news would do to Nathan. After much struggle, she decides to tell Nathan the truth. When Nathan hears this harsh truth, his world seems to fall apart in an instant. He couldn't believe that his beloved wife could be so cold-blooded. Not only had he betrayed him, but he intended to use his father's death for his own gain. Nathan's heart was filled with sadness and anger and a sense of betrayal, but he didn't confront Olivia right away. Instead, he decided to calm down and think carefully about his response. In the days that followed, Nathan pretended it was business as usual. But inside, a plan was brewing. He knew that if Olivia's plot was to be stopped, he had to be more cunning than she was. He began to secretly investigate Ethan's background. The father's health was also closely monitored. Nathan realizes that he must take action before his father dies. He began to visit his father frequently, taking the opportunity to have long conversations with Jack. Discussion of estate arrangements. Jack was a little confused by his condition, though, but he remained level-headed enough to understand his son's concerns. It was at this critical moment that Isabella once again showed her loyalty. She not only takes care of Jack's daily routine, it also became Nathan's right-hand man, helping him refine the details of the program. Over time, Nathan's plan took shape. He's determined to teach Olivia and Ethan a lesson they'll never forget, and also to protect my father's legacy from their covetousness. This plan requires not only intelligence and courage, but also perfect timing. When Jack's condition suddenly worsens, Nathan knows the time for action has finally come. He must strike before Olivia puts her foot down. A game of love, betrayal, and revenge is about to unfold. And the bustling city of Manhattan will be the stage for this thrilling love scam. Nathan's heart is like a volcano about to erupt, filled with grief and anger. He's determined to make Olivia and Ethan pay for their betrayal. But he knows the path of revenge requires wisdom and patience. With Isabella's support, Nathan begins to orchestrate his revenge plan. First, Nathan contacted the family attorney. Request to amend Father Jack's will. He spent days going over it with his lawyers. Make sure every detail stands the test of law. New wills not only protect family property, all the more reason to be a sharp instrument for punishing betrayers. Meanwhile, Nathan is secretly investigating Ethan's company. Discover that the ostensibly glamorous real estate mogul is actually in debt and looking for an opportunity to turn his life around. This information became a major bargaining chip in Nathan's plan. Just when everything is ready, Jack's condition suddenly deteriorates. Nathan stays at his father's bedside day and night, his heart filled with mixed emotions. He's dealing with the pain of losing a loved one. Again, be on the lookout for Olivia's possible actions. On Jack's deathbed, Nathan held his father's hand. Softly, he said, "Dad, I promise to protect our family and won't let anyone hurt your heart and soul." Jack nodded weakly, a look of relief flashing in his eyes. Jack's passing swept through everyone like a hurricane. Olivia acts all sad, but Nathan can see through the hidden anticipation in her eyes. Ethan also showed up at the right time to offer his condolences as a good friend of Nathan's wife. After the funeral, the family attorney notified all concerned of the reading of the will. On this day, Nathan arrived at the law office early and calmly waited for the others to arrive. As Olivia stepped into the conference room, there was a gleam of victory in her eyes. Ethan followed close behind, and the two exchanged a subtle glance. Isabella was also invited, and she looked worriedly at Nathan. The latter returned a reassuring smile. The lawyer cleared his throat and began to read the contents of the will. At first, everything seemed to go Olivia's way. Jack left the bulk of his estate to his only son, Nathan. But what came next was like a hammer blow, shattering Olivia's carefully woven dreams. "I, Jack Morgan, do hereby declare," the attorney continued reading, "I am honoring my lifelong love of art by donating ancient Chinese porcelain that I have treasured for many years to the National Museum." Upon hearing this, Olivia's face instantly turned white. She looked incredulously at Nathan, whose expression was as calm as ever. But the bigger shock was yet to come. The attorney continued to read, "However, this donation comes with the following condition. The luxury store run by my daughter-in-law, Olivia Morgan, must be disqualified from all cooperation by the National Museum. Furthermore, Mr. Ethan Graham must immediately sever all ties with Olivia Morgan. This includes both business and personal interactions. If any of the above conditions are not met, the donation will be automatically voided. Ownership of the porcelain will be transferred to another overseas museum." A dead silence fell over the conference room. The blood drained from Olivia's face as she looked at Nathan in disbelief. It was as if he was recognizing the man for the first time. Ethan, on the other hand, was frozen in place like a statue, his eyes filled with horror and confusion. Nathan stood up and looked around at everyone present. His eyes finally rested on Olivia, and he said calmly, "I think Father's last wishes are clear. Olivia, do you have anything to say?" Olivia opened her mouth but couldn't get a word out. Her dreams, her plans, all came to nothing in this moment. She realized that not only had she lost the valuable piece of china, even more so, they have lost the careers and social status on which they depended. Ethan was the first to react. He stood up quickly and gave Olivia a cold look. Then turning to Nathan, he said, "Nathan, I promise you that from now on I will never have anything to do with your wife." After that, he left the conference room without looking back. Olivia finally broke down. She shouted hysterically, "Nathan, how could you do this to me? I'm your wife." Nathan calmly replied, "No, Olivia, you're long gone. I've filed for divorce. You'll be hearing from the court soon." That statement was like the last straw that completely crushed Olivia. She stumbled to her feet and stormed out of the conference room in tears. When only Nathan and Isabella were left in the conference room, Nathan finally breathed a sigh of relief, an exhausted look on his face. Isabella walked over to him and patted him on the shoulder, said, "You did a great job, Nathan. Jack would be proud of you." Nathan looked at Isabella gratefully and said, "Thank you, Isabella. Without your help, I may never know the truth, much less make it this far." The lawyer comes over and hands Nathan a document. said, "Mr. Morgan, this is a personal letter left to you by your father. He specifically instructed it to be given to you at the end of the reading of the will." Nathan took the envelope, his hand trembling slightly. He knew that his father's letter might contain more secrets and instructions. Walking out of the lawyer's office, Nathan took a deep breath, feeling the coolness of early fall in New York. He knew that this was just the beginning. Next thing you know, he's got divorce proceedings, media attention, and the challenge of rebuilding your life. But at this moment, his heart was calmer than ever. He finally got justice for his father, punished the betrayer, and protected the family's honor. Nathan looked out over the Manhattan skyline and whispered, "Dad, I did it." As night falls, the neon lights of the city come on one by one. Nathan and Isabella are walking home side by side. They both knew that life was going to have a fresh start. And Olivia, once the darling of New York's high society, at the moment is alone in a corner of the city, paying the price for his greed and betrayal. This probate trial is more than just the end of a marriage. More than anything else, it's a profound catharsis of humanity. A story of love, betrayal, and redemption in the city that never sleeps. It's just kicking off. After the furor over the reading of the will, Manhattan high society was in an uproar. Ethan Graham, the once powerful real estate mogul, today faces an unprecedented crisis. His company's stock price plummeted and investors pulled out in droves, and his proud social circle began to exclude him. On a rainy morning, Ethan was sitting in his plush office. The face stared grimly at the computer screen. The secretary knocked softly on the door and came in with trepidation. "Mr. Graham, Ms. Olivia Morgan is waiting for you in the lobby. She says it's urgent to see you." Ethan frowned and snapped, "Tell her I'm too busy to see her." The secretary hesitated and added, "But, Mr. Graham, she says that if you don't see her, she's about to go to the press to break the story of your relationship." Ethan's face instantly turned white. He took a deep breath and finally relented. "Let her in." Olivia walks into the office, not looking as radiant as she used to. Her makeup was slightly disheveled, and her eyes were filled with despair and anger. "Ethan, how could you do this to me?" she questioned. "You promised to take care of me." Ethan sneered, "Taking care of you, Olivia? Wake up. We've done nothing more than use each other. Things have changed now. I have to think about my future. But I've lost everything." Olivia shouted hysterically. "My store, my position, my marriage, all gone." Ethan looked at her with an expressionless face. "That's your choice, Olivia. I advise you to get the hell out of New York. There's no future for you here anymore." Olivia looks at Ethan incredulously and suddenly laughs. The laughter was full of irony and despair. As she turned to leave, she dropped the words, "Ethan, you're going to regret this." It was shortly after Olivia left that Ethan received a call from his wife. She coldly informed him that the divorce papers had been delivered to his apartment. Ethan then realized that not only had he lost his lover, also about to lose his family. Meanwhile, across town, Nathan is sitting with Isabella in his father's old house. Isabella's son Marco playing in the yard. They watched the boy's innocent smile through the window. "Nathan," Isabella said softly, "there's something I've been meaning to ask you." Nathan turned his head and smiled. "Yes, Isabella?" Isabella hesitated for a moment, but still summoned up the courage to ask, "That ancient Chinese porcelain, is it real?" Nathan froze for a moment, then laughed. He stood up and walked over to an old safe in his study. "Enter the password to open it." From inside, he carefully removed a fine box. "Isabella," he said, "you are the first to know the secret." He opened the box, and inside was a glorious blue and white porcelain vase. Isabella covered her mouth in surprise and looked at the artifact in disbelief. This is the real thing?" she asked softly. Nathan nodded. "Yes, this is the real thing. Before my father died, gave it to me for safekeeping. The one that's in the living room is actually a very elaborate replica." Isabella came to a realization. "So, you purposely let Ethan and Olivia think that the replica was the real thing?" "That's right," Nathan admitted. "My father actually sensed Olivia's greed a long time ago. In the last months of his life, we hatched this plan together." Nathan went on to explain, We deliberately put out the word that this china was worth a lot of money. It may even set an auction record. The news naturally caught Olivia and Ethan's attention. Isabella nods thoughtfully. So those conditions in the will. It was all my father's idea. Nathan took over. He said that instead of punishing them directly, he would give them a chance to eat their own words. And you saw the result. Ethan didn't hesitate to ditch Olivia to save his reputation and career. Isabella couldn't help but be in awe of old Morgan's wisdom. She whispered, "Your father was such a wise man." A hint of sadness flashed in Nathan's eyes. Yeah, he always saw through the heart. It's just a shame. He didn't get to see his plan work. Isabella reached out and gently took Nathan's hand. But he believed you could do it. You didn't let him down. Nathan looked at Isabella gratefully, suddenly realizing that she was the one who stayed by her side, offering support and comfort during this difficult time. Isabella, Nathan took a deep breath. There's something I want to tell you. Isabella looked up at him with anticipation and a hint of unease in her gaze. I've been thinking about a lot of things for a while now, Nathan continued. About life, about family, about what really matters. He paused for a moment, looking firmly at Isabella. I want to give you and Marco a home. Not just this house, but a real home. Would you like to start a new family with me? Isabella's eyes instantly filled with tears. She choked back a sob and said, Nathan, you know what? This is what I've always dreamed of. Just then, Marco came running in from the yard. Seeing the tears in his mom's eyes, he asked worriedly, Mommy, why are you crying? Did Uncle Nathan bully you? Nathan and Isabella smiled at each other. Nathan knelt down and gently said to Marco, Marco, I'm not bullying your mom. On the contrary, I have just invited you to form a family with me. Will you let me be your new daddy? Marco's eyes widened in surprise at Nathan and Isabella. Then he nodded vigorously and flung himself into Nathan's arms. On this sun-filled afternoon in the bustling metropolis of Manhattan, a new family is born, and that piece of ancient Chinese porcelain quietly witnessing all this, as if telling an ancient story of love, betrayal, and redemption. The world outside is still bustling, and Ethan and Olivia are paying the price for their greed. But in this cozy home, Nathan, Isabella, and Marco find true happiness. They know that whatever challenges await them in the future, as long as you love and support each other, there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome. Time flies and a year has passed. Fall in Manhattan is still beautiful, with golden leaves covering the paths of Central Park. However, for some, the city has lost its former luster. Ethan Graham, the once powerful real estate mogul, now it has been reduced to the laughingstock of Wall Street. His company completely collapsed after a series of scandals, and investors have sued. Claims for substantial losses. Ethan has to sell his mansion and yacht to deal with the ensuing lawsuits. His wife took almost all of his assets in the divorce. He was left alone to face this great storm of life alone. Olivia's situation is no better. Her luxury store soon folded after losing the museum's cooperation. Clients who used to swoon over her now shun her. Fear of being caught in the middle of a scandal. Olivia finally chose to leave the city that hurt her so much. It's rumored that she moved to a small town in Florida where she runs a small boutique, living a life of obscurity. On the other side of town, Nathan's life is turned upside down. His wedding to Isabella took place in the backyard of Jack's old house. Only the closest friends and family were invited. Marco acted as their little flower girl with a happy smile on her young face. After the wedding, Nathan decided to do some renovations to his father's house. They kept the classic style of the house while adding some modern amenities. Revitalized this century-old mansion. Isabella's gardening talents have transformed the backyard into a beautiful little garden. It becomes the perfect place for the whole family to relax and unwind. Nathan continues to teach economics at the university level, but his teaching style has become more lively and interesting. He often uses examples from his own experiences to help students understand the real-life applications of economic theory. His course quickly became one of the most popular electives in the school. Isabella, on the other hand, quit her job as a nanny to focus on her family. But rather than give up on her interest, she began studying horticultural design at a community college. She dreams of opening her own flower store one day. Marco made many friends quickly at his new school. Nathan often played soccer with him and sometimes took him to New York Red Bulls games. Marco joked that Nathan was more competent than his real father. After taking care of all his legal matters, Nathan decided to honor his father's last wish: donate that precious piece of ancient Chinese porcelain to the National Museum. He contacted the museum's director and spoke at length about the origins and significance of the artwork. The museum is truly grateful for this generous donation and proposed a special gallery for Jack Morgan to honor his love and contributions to the arts. Nathan readily agreed to the offer. On the day the gallery opened, Nathan brought Isabella and Marco to the museum. Tears glistened in Nathan's eyes as they stood in front of the beautiful Celadon vase. "Dad," he said softly, "I wish you could see this. Your collection has finally found its best home." Isabella clasped Nathan's hand and whispered, "I'm sure he saw and he must be so proud of you." Marco tilted his head at the china in the display case and asked curiously, "Daddy Nathan, why is this vase so special?" Nathan knelt down and patiently explained, "Marco, this vase is more than just a piece of art. It represents your grandfather's life's work and bears witness to our family's story. It teaches us that true value is not in the item itself, and in the memories and emotions it carries." Marco nodded plausibly and asked, "So can we come back to see it later?" Nathan smiled and replied, "Sure, we can come see it anytime we want. And just remember, it's not just this piece of china that's here. The whole gallery tells the story of your grandfather. He was a marvelous restorer of antiques and contributed greatly to the preservation and heritage of works of art." They continued to tour the gallery, savoring the stories behind each exhibit. Nathan felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that his father's efforts had not been in vain. His passion and professionalism will impact many more people through this showroom. The setting sun's rays poured over them as they left the museum. Nathan puts his arm around Isabella's shoulder and holds Marco's hand. "Feel the warmth of family around you." He suddenly realized that the most precious things in life were not the expensive antiques or luxury items. Rather, it was these two men who were traveling with him at the moment. On the way home, Nathan suggested dinner at their favorite pizza place. Marco cheered excitedly, and Isabella smiled in agreement. On this ordinary evening, in the bustling streets of New York City, this reorganized family has found their own happy rhythm. Later that night, after Marco had gone to sleep, Nathan and Isabella sat on the swing set in the backyard, enjoying a quiet evening. Isabella snuggled into Nathan's arms and whispered, "Nathan, do you remember the first time we met?" Nathan smiled. "Of course I remember. You just came to take care of my father. I thought you wouldn't last long." Isabella smiled back, "Yeah, who would have thought that not only would I have stuck it out, and became the mistress of the house." Nathan gently kissed Isabella's forehead. "I'm glad you stayed. You're the one who put the warmth back into this home." Isabella looked up into Nathan's eyes. "After all we've been through, this day has finally come. Do you regret it?" Nathan shook his head firmly. "No regrets at all. On the contrary, I think our love has become more precious because of the trials we've gone through." They smiled at each other, then looked up at the stars together. The night sky in Manhattan is not as clear as in the suburbs, but you can still see a few bright stars. Nathan whispered, "Isabella, I'm sure that whatever challenges await us in the future, as long as we are together, we will be able to overcome." Isabella tightened her grip on Nathan's hand and softly replied, "I feel the same way, my dear." The night breeze was light, bringing with it the fresh scent of grass in the distance. On this quiet evening, Nathan and Isabella envision their future. They know that life won't always be easy, but as long as they have each other's company and support, they have the courage to face any difficulties. In the never-ending city of Manhattan, a story of betrayal, punishment, redemption, and renewal comes to a close. And for Nathan, Isabella, and Marco, a new chapter of love and hope. It's just getting started. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.